WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. An Oxford police officer is in jail tonight, accused of killing a woman.
Matthew Kenny is charged with murder in connection with the death of Dominique Lachelle Clayton. Clayton was found dead Sunday afternoon in a home on Suncrest Street. The officer is a member of the Oxford Mounted Patrol Unit, was taken into custody last night. Interim Police Chief Jeff McCutcheon says his department will seek justice for Clayton even if the suspect is one of their own. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation is handling the case. Kenny remains in the Pinota County Jail.
It's a loved one's worst nightmare, an accidental shooting. The Mississippi Highway Patrol says it happened today at the acting Webster County Sheriff's home. Investigators believe the sheriff's grandchild was seriously injured. Our Jory Talley was in Manatee today and has more on the story.
Law enforcement say an accidental shooting happened here in Webster County at the acting sheriff's home on Manatee Road Tuesday morning. Multiple sources tell WCBI that Sheriff Andy McCant's grandson was accidentally shot in the abdomen after he and his older brother were playing with a gun when it went off. There was little evidence of police activity at the home shortly after the accident happened. The grandson was taken to the hospital in Eupora and airlifted to another facility. The child's condition has not been released. The Mississippi Highway Patrol is filing an incident report. A Department of Public Safety spokesman says no criminal charges are expected to be filed. Reporting here in Webster County, Jory Talley, WCBI News.
It has been almost 5 years since the bodies of 5 South Carolina children were found in Wilcox County, Alabama. Their father, 32-year-old Timothy Jones Jr., is charged with killing all 5 of them. Jones was the legal guardian. He may have been on his way to his parents' home in Monroe County here in Mississippi when he was pulled over by deputies in Smith County. That traffic stop led to investigators questioning Jones. He eventually led officers to a secluded area near Camden, Alabama. That's where they discovered all 5 children, their bodies wrapped in individual garbage bags. The children's grandparents held a memorial service at the Amory Church of Christ. Well, Jones is on trial this week in South Carolina. That's where investigators believe he killed the children. Their mother reported the children missing in 2014, but it did not qualify at that time as an Amber Alert because their father had custody. Amber Kaiser was emotional on the stand as she read a letter that she wrote her children prior to their death.
To reassure you, sweetheart, that you, along with your brothers and sister, mean everything to me. You kids are my world, and Mommy and Daddy were very blessed to have you.
Jones pled guilty by reason of insanity. His guilty plea would allow one of 4 possible outcomes in this trial. That would be guilty, guilty by reason of insanity, not guilty by mental defect, or not guilty.
The Monroe County Sheriff's Department wants your help identifying a man believed to be involved in a fraud case. Investigators want to know who this man is. These pictures are from surveillance footage inside a business from February of this year. The man is suspected of fraud involving counterfeit checks. If you recognize him or have any information on the case, call the Monroe County Sheriff's Department.
Grenada County Coroner Eddie Skeeter Robinson is out on bond after being indicted in DeSoto County. The coroner accused of selling fake funeral plans to elderly people.
Our Cash Matlock sits down with an area funeral director and talks about how you can avoid falling victim to a similar alleged scam. Cash joins us live in the studio with more.
Well, unfortunately, Coroner Robinson isn't the first person to be charged with allegedly selling a fake funeral plan. Drew Massey with Nowell Massey Funeral Home in Louisville says it's an issue he's seen a few times in his career.
When funeral director Drew Massey first heard about the DeSoto County funeral scams, he felt a range of emotions.
First of all, it's his anger, first of all, because that anyone would prey upon the elderly like that, or anyone, it doesn't matter, but especially the elderly, because that's the ones that's mostly coming in looking for a pre-arranged funeral plan.
Massey says he spent the past 14 years of his career trying to earn the community's trust.
Try to have a rapport with the people, and when people understand that, when they see a funeral director out and about, whether it be at church, school event, community event, when they start getting that personal relationship and rapport with them, then the trusting aspect is there.
And part of that trust comes from having the proper documentation.
So every time somebody takes out a pre-need funeral service policy with us through a licensed insurance agency, they're going to send them the quote every month, and they're going to send them stuff with identification number on it, so making sure that it matches up.
In fact, he says buying a policy from an individual instead of an established business should be the first red flag.
I would go through a funeral home definitely before I would go through any individual, because nowadays, sadly, scams are everywhere.
Massey says a person's best line of defense is to pay attention to detail.
If somebody's going to do a false write-up, they're going to have some flaws somewhere in there. They're going to, if they're making up stuff, they're not going to go through with it to the full extent, trying to do contracts and stuff.
Massey also says you should never handle funeral arrangements over the phone, but rather sit down with someone in person.
All right, thanks a lot, Cash. Time now to turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson. He joins us for the first look at our forecast. Keith?
Joy, pretty warm right now. We are in the mid to upper 80s, a lot of 88s there across the board in many spots here. Now, notice the clouds in Columbus. We do have a little batch of showers trying to move from the south to the north across the Golden Triangle area. These are pretty light, pretty isolated, but you may see a little bit of rain here. Those will fade away. We're looking at mid to upper 70s here once we get into the evening. Clouds will tend to fill back in a little bit by sunrise. Lows upper 60s to around 70 tonight, but overall, a quiet night. Southerly breezes will continue, and another warm day on Wednesday. Variably cloudy, pushing 90 with a stray shower storm possible. It gets hotter later this week. More on that in just a few minutes.
New at 6 tonight, some Alabama lawmakers cash out on the idea of state lottery. The legislation stalled today in the House of Representatives after there were not enough votes to bring up the bill for debate. The procedural vote was one shy of what was needed under the proposal. 75% of proceeds would go to the general fund and the remaining money would go to education. It's unclear whether supporters will try to bring the legislation back up for debate. Alabama is one of 5 states now without a state lottery.
As trade tensions between the United States and China heat up, furniture manufacturers across North Mississippi are looking at how they may be impacted.
Our Allie Martin talks with business leaders about the recent decisions by the president to raise tariffs on Chinese-made goods.
For nearly 50 years, Hassel Franklin has been at the forefront of furniture manufacturing in Northeast Mississippi, weathering both good and challenging economic times. The recent trade war between the U.S. and China is making an impact on Franklin's business.
There are always challenges, and these tariffs, obviously our intellectual properties have been kind of stolen by China for all these years, and that needs to be changed. And obviously with the tariffs and our industry, it brings on great issues.
President Donald Trump followed through on a threat to raise tariffs on Chinese-made goods to 25%. And while more than 1,000 workers make furniture at Franklin's Houston plant, some of the raw materials come from China. Those materials will now cost more.
Everyone's impacted with it. Normally when you go for an issue and you strive to solve that issue, there's some pain along the way. And certainly there's pain along the way, but in the end, this is what we need to be doing.
Mississippi Manufacturers Association President Jay Moon is an advocate for industry in the Magnolia State. He says furniture makers are bracing for short-term impacts, but also see the bigger picture.
It's a course correction, and what we've asked the administration to do is we understand how we need to get rogue players like China to follow trade laws and not violate those, not steal intellectual property rights, that kind of thing. So we know it's necessary to make a course correction, but we simply ask them, get it done, get to the table, get it negotiated, and then let's move on.
Moon says manufacturers are also looking for other non-Chinese sources of raw materials until trade talks resume. Allie Martin, WCBI News.
Tariffs were increased from 10 to 25% on Chinese exports. Coming up, some area youngsters are gearing up for a summer full of robots, music, and virtual reality.
Don't tell the kids, but there may be a few lessons in there too. We'll explain when we come back.
watching WCBI News at 6 with Andrea Self and Joey Barnes.
Welcome back. A longtime Tupelo City Councilwoman is honored for her years of service to the community. Nettie Davis was named this year's winner of the Jack Reed Senior Community Leadership Award at today's annual State of the Region meeting. Davis was recognized for her many contributions, including helping to revitalize her ward, organizing the community's Forward Festival, and advocating for civil rights. The lifelong Tupelo resident says she's surprised and honored.
I work very hard to help people in the community, and I don't work to get any kind of rewards for it, but this is really a great award for me to be able to know that people respect my leadership and what I can do to make the city of Tupelo and help people in this community.
The award is named for the late Jack Reed Sr., a Tupelo business and civic leader who was instrumental in bringing the city peacefully through the public school integration in the 1970s.
School is coming to a close. This means students and teachers are getting ready for a well-deserved break. But at Ware Elementary School, the learning experiences are just beginning. The school is introducing a STEM program this summer. Students will be working with robots, coding, music, and virtual reality. Teachers are hoping to slow down what's known as the summer slide and keep kids learning. Julie Chase says this is a big deal for the community.
Sometimes we're overlooked because we're small. But great things come from small communities. We may be a small community, but we want these students to know it doesn't matter how small you are. You can do big things too.
Ware Elementary will also be hosting a summer food service program for all Choctaw County students in June.
A few passing showers out there right now. You can see just a little bit of rain trying to fall from one of those clouds east and northeast of Columbus, but those will fade away. Hot and dry, the big themes going forward. More on that after the break.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Summer is almost here. Can you believe it? Officially beginning 1 month from today. Only 21 more minutes of daylight to gain. The days are getting longer and longer. Temperatures are getting warmer and warmer. And this is the temperature trend, pushing 90 tomorrow, maybe 95 by Saturday or Sunday. Overnight lows in the upper 60s. The average right now 85 and 61. So well above that during the day and at night. This is our Alpha Insurance Camera Network in Columbus, Tupelo, Vernon at Durham's Pharmacy, and in Louisville, Mississippi today. Some of those puffy cumulus clouds perking on up, and those have produced a few isolated showers out there. But as the sun gets a little bit lower on the horizon, those showers tend to go away, and that's what's happening right now. So really more of a nuisance than anything else. The clouds will fizzle, will be mostly clear this evening, and then we'll see some lower clouds redevelop later tonight. But more severe weather across the plains, and those storms as close as eastern Arkansas right now, but those storms will not be getting here. The big pattern is setting up to have this big area of high pressure, and that is going to deflect the storm track, the jet stream, back toward northwest for the rest of the work week through the weekend and into next week. So no problems foreseen here for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. 88 in Columbus and in Tupelo and in Meridian. Tuscaloosa 90, they had a record high today of 94. So extremely warm temperatures around the region. Again, for this evening, those showers fade away. It will be mostly clear. You'll see a big bright moon, and then the clouds will tend to fill back in later on tonight as some moisture creeps back on in here. Lows in the upper 60s tomorrow. Variably cloudy, pushing 90 degrees. Wind still from the south at about 10 to 15. And there will be a 20% chance for one of those pop-up showers and storms, much like what we had out there today. Don't really expect it. Do plan on more dry conditions in the near term than anything else, but overall we just have to hedge the bet there with that 20% chance. So notice the storms back there across Arkansas. As they get into Mississippi, they just cannot get here due to that big area of high pressure that's setting up around here. But we will likely see some low clouds redevelop for the morning commute. And as those clouds break up a little bit and we still have some moisture around, we may see a shower or thundershower tomorrow afternoon, but pretty isolated. There's the warm weather. It is deflecting all of that unsettled weather back to the northwest. So as we get into your 7-day forecast, check it out. More sun, more heat, mid-90s by the weekend, dry for your Memorial Day holiday.
The Rebels are on their way to the next one with an opening day win to the SEC tournament. The highlights from Hoover next in sports.
WCBI Sports with Tom Ebel is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
Mississippi State continuing to invest in its head football coach. Joe Moorhead at MSU agreeing to a 4-year contract extension through 2022. Mississippi law prevents public officials from having contracts more than 4 years, so this is the +1 for Moorhead, and he also receives a pay raise, making an additional $450,000 per year. Moorhead led Mississippi State to an 8-5 record in year one, becoming the first Bulldogs head coach to win 8 games in his first season since 1939. Ole Miss set to defend its SEC tournament crown, taking on Missouri for day one of the tournament. Missouri gets on the board first. Austin James with an RBI base hit in the second inning. That'd be about it for Missouri. It'd be a masterful day on the mound for Will Etheridge. Aside from that one base hit, Rebels get what they need in the 5th, though. Thomas Dillard belts one to left field. Jacob Adams scores, and it's a tie ball game until 2 batters later. The big Cole Zabowski gives the Rebels the lead. Base hit right up the middle, brings Dillard home. Ole Miss up 2-1. It would stay that way the rest of the day. And in to close it out, who else but Ryan Olenek? The man does it all for Ole Miss. And this would be the final out of the ball game. Olenek with a strikeout, back-to-back saves for the all-everything athlete from Ole Miss. Rebels win 2-1, facing the 2-seed Arkansas on Wednesday. Ole Miss softball prepares for the 2nd Super Regional appearance in program history, off to the desert to face the 6th overall seed Arizona. Rebels are familiar with going out west for a Super, traveling to UCLA in 2017. Head coach Mike Smith says the high from the weekend will need to come down, as simply being there isn't enough for Ole Miss softball.
Before our practice today, I said, look, you know, has the excitement and of this weekend worn off? And of course they're like, no, not yet. And I'm like, well, we need to now focus on what our goal is. And we're not just happy to get to Arizona. We're not happy to play U of A and to get to a Super Regional. We've been to a Super Regional before. We were close, beating UCLA, and now the next step in this program and our culture is to take that next step and get to Oklahoma City.
We've seen the best pitchers that the SEC has to face, and we did a pretty good job of winning every series except for Georgia. So I feel like we've been successful also off of the best pitching also, and so I feel like that's a good confidence booster.
We've played so many great teams that have offenses like that. We face the top hitters in the nation, and I think that's really prepared us to continue our season throughout past Arizona.
2 members of Oklahoma's 2018 basketball championship team will be looking for another title at the next level. The Chieftains' Ja'Coria Stanfield signing with Pearl River and Jamal Moore signing with Kahoma to continue their basketball careers. Combined, Stanfield and Moore were sensational for Oklahoma, combining for 40 points per game and 16 rebounds per game.
They need another piece to move their team into a championship team, and I just want to change the program around.
I just love playing the game. Just want to work.
Congrats to those two as they move on to the next level. Going back to the SEC tournament, for those with rooting interest with Mississippi State, the late game tonight between LSU and South Carolina will determine who the Bulldogs will face late tomorrow night. Could be something to look forward to as we head toward the end of SEC baseball season. And that's it for sports. The last secure forecast is next.
Here's a very warm 70 forecast. There could be a spotty shower storm tomorrow, but the big story here, the heat, building heat, dry weather, perfect weather for outdoor activities for your Memorial Day down at the coast or even here. So, you know, we put up with a lot of garbage so far this year.
For sure.
I mean, really, it's been rough.
It's been rough. It has been.
Now we're dry now.
And we deserve this, every bit of it.
We do. I agree with that. Just going to have to get used to that humidity
It's
part
been
again.
hot.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone.